So welcome along to another one of our City sit-downs, and someone that signed back in February but we've seen once and we've never had the chance to speak to yet is Lauren Wade, and thankfully she's sticking around for a little bit longer at the club, extending her contract. Lauren, what a strange year you've had, signing for the club and playing just one game.
Yeah, it's been very strange, obviously, just with what had happened. Was here roughly about a week and a half, and then we went away on international duty, and then it kind of all just went from there.
Yeah, and I mean, it feels so long ago now, that kind of game back in February. How have you managed to kind of keep touch with everything that's going on and keep in touch with everyone at Glasgow City?
Yeah, so obviously just when we returned home, we always had the regular Zoom workouts with Andy, and that kind of kept us pretty much in touch. And then obviously with the fitness program and stuff like that that we had to do obviously every day, you were always keeping in touch, whether it was through the app or the WhatsApp group. So no, it's been quite good. And then obviously came back there on Monday, and sometimes it feels weird, but it seems that you've never been away, even though you're away about 15, 16 weeks. So yeah, no, it's been good.
And the training prospects for the next, while, but certainly for the next few weeks ahead of the Champions League will be kind of a bit different as well, with all the testing and whatnot that's going to go on.
Yeah, no, of course. Obviously, right now here it's still only groups of 3, and no contact. So obviously that's to change next week. And once we start to get the testing, and then we can go contact, it just obviously makes things a lot easier in terms of even ourselves as players and the coaching staff as well.
And how pleasing is it for you that you're going to actually, fingers crossed, we get going at some point after the Champions League relatively soon, that you're going to get to wear that jersey more often over the kind of months ahead?
Yeah, no, of course. As a player coming to a new club, it always is that kind of bit daunting, but I feel, that I've settled in okay. And as any player, they just want the league to start. But obviously, with everything that's going on, it has to be safe for everyone involved. And, obviously City is the most successful club, and it's something that I am excited to be a part of, and that the club's vision, and they're always striving to be better. And as I said, that's just something that I felt that I wanted to be a part of.
Well, can I come back to City in a bit, and particularly because with Champions League coming up, the quarterfinals coming up, but kind of to get fans to know about you a little bit more, taking it right back, you're an experienced footballer now. You've been in a few different countries, international player. Where did your love for football start as a kid?
Honestly, I've been brought up in a very footballing family. My grandfather was heavily involved in football through my hometown back in Northern Ireland. He was always involved within the Irish FA as well. So it kind of come from there. And then obviously with my brother, sort of played from I was about 6 years of age, and I'm now 26, so a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, only 26, but you had a lot of football experience so far. So who did you idolise growing up, football players-wise?
Oh, obviously when I was growing up, women's football wasn't really around then. So who, like myself, idolised players in the men's game. So for me, it was David Beckham. Just as he played kind of the same position, it was either David Beckham or Ryan Giggs on either left wing or right wing, and that's who I always followed watching the games.
And was there a particular time, perhaps later on growing up, that there was a female player you could look up to and go, wow, I want to be like someone like that?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, when I spent the time in America, always, Alex Morgan, Carly Lloyd, those types of, like, obviously they were forwards, and it was more, I looked to those type of players. But yeah, I mean, it was always funny, like, because we always referred back to the men's game. But now, because a lot of the younger girls now have a lot more role models to look up to that are females, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. And kind of getting to, before you got to America and stuff, and getting to play for Glentoran, how was your kind of pathway? Because nowadays, like at Glasgow City, we've got academy from age 7 upwards, girls. What was that process and pathway for you to kind of get to first team women's football?
Yeah, so it was a little bit different. Back then we had it was like a soccer school, but I played with the boys. So a lot of my youth football was played with a boys team until I was probably around 14, and then I played for my hometown and went through in their senior team. Again, before that, I played under 15 girls, and then got into the senior team back home. They're called Korean, and then that's where I stayed there for 4 years, and then I progressed into Glentoran. So you don't really have, for girls now, as you say, like the city have their academy. Back then it was you just played for either a boys team and then progressed then into the women's team came around, and that's just how it worked for us.
So does that kind of slightly mind blow you a little bit? Because, I'm a similar age and awfully watching, even coverage-wise, 10, 15 years ago, there was very little. But in terms of a playing prospect, there wasn't any of these kind of pathways. There is more of these kind of pathways. And that's happened in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah. No, it's again, if you take back 10 years, if I was that age now, those kids that are 10, 11, 12 right now, it's very exciting for what opportunities that they have. And, it's going to enhance the women's game so much.
Now, you did get to play several years, in Northern Ireland in the domestic league there, particularly at Glentoran. We had 4 years. What's the kind of league level like? Would you say? It's probably grown a lot since you played them, but what was it kind of starting like then as a development for you?
Yeah, obviously it's grown a lot more. At that stage, it was good for my development. I think, at that point maybe we didn't know as much, and again, I think being at Glentoran actually really progressed my game at that point in my career. And then from Glentoran, that's then I got the scholarship to go to America. So each club that I've been at have always been a stepping stone and have really helped me progress in my career.
And it was something that I was speaking to you a few weeks ago, and perhaps fans will maybe start to click, because I clicked, that you actually played against Glasgow City for Glentoran in the Champions League back in 2014 in the group stages. Can you remember that experience? It feels like yesterday, but actually it's 6 years ago.
I know, it's crazy. It does. I remember it actually very well, because I remember to get our media day done for Glasgow City, it was the same hotel where we stayed in as Glentoran, so that kind of brought back a little bit of memories. But yeah, no, I remember all 3 games that we played, but particularly against City. Of course, they were the dominant side, and again, I think the score was 1-0. For us, that was maybe a good result, even though it was a loss. But at that point, I was still quite young, so I was playing for Glentoran and kind of playing against City, looking up to a certain point in how they play, and it was a great experience. But I feel from then I've grown so much as a player. Yeah.
And as I say, you're right, 1-0. It was quite a close game, actually, and the closest game Glasgow had in that group stage. So there probably was a lot of pride, despite only being a 1-0 defeat.
Yeah, no, definitely there was a lot of pride in going from, I suppose, at that stage, we're a local kind of amateur team as such, coming from Northern Ireland. So, no, it was good. It was a great experience.
And you kind of touched on, well, you kind of went away to America, but kind of towards the kind of midpoint of that decade, you started, getting caps for Northern Ireland as well. That was been a special kind of moment, and you've now amassed quite a few caps.
Yeah, I made my debut way back actually when I was about 15. It was a non-competitive game actually against Scotland, and then again when I was around 16. But then unfortunately I had an injury that had me out for a couple of years, so then came back in actually around my 18th birthday, and I've been around since then. And I think to represent your country is one of the proudest moments I think you could ever achieve, and I absolutely love playing for Northern Ireland.
Yeah, and you talked about when you were younger at Northern Ireland, how there wasn't perhaps the role models or any kind of coverage. But now that team's now starting to grow. From a Scottish perspective, we've seen the Scotland team kind of growing now at Euros and World Cups. Wales are starting to get stronger in the home nations, Republic of Ireland as well. And Northern Ireland, there's players now, recognisable players that are playing, in the British Isles that, fans of the women's game will know, which must be great to play alongside.
No, it is. It's absolutely fantastic. Obviously, it happened to be that a lot of our players were home based, but now because the women's game's growing, that a lot of our players have had the opportunity, like myself, to be in Scotland or England or even abroad and playing, full time. So it's only going to help us as players. But then those younger girls coming up, they now do have role models to look up to, and it's actually quite nice. It's nice when you get, the little girls at our games, and they're shouting your name and things like that. Like sometimes, we're not used to that as such, but because the game is growing and we're getting more coverage, not only just Northern Ireland, obviously Wales, Scotland, and England, we're all getting that coverage. So no, it's great.
Now, because of kind of the league in Northern Ireland, you did have to kind of perhaps spread your wings a little bit, and you've been in a couple of different locations in Europe, but you went to America for 18 months or so. That must have been a totally different experience altogether. And I guess, because football's so big there, and even at kind of college level and stuff, that must have been really exciting.
Yeah, it was very exciting at the start. Again, something new, kind of like, oh, what have I got myself into? You just don't know what to expect. But once I got there, and you see the facilities, you see what you're going, your training days. It's practically a full-time setup, and it's at that point in my career, it's kind of what I wanted. I studied a master's in business, and I was so lucky because it was only one day a week. It was actually an evening of like 6 to 8, so it suited me so well because the rest of the time, obviously I just played football, so it was like being a professional player, and all the facilities are top class, and the game itself. I did get a little bit of a shock when I went over there. The game was so fast, the speed of play, and this is maybe the terminology. A lot of the Americans are like machines. They're just so fit. And yeah, it probably took the whole pre-season for a lot of the, I suppose, international students to adapt to the way that the Americans kind of played.
And you've mentioned the fitness, so it was always based around fitness. Was a standard, a lot higher than what you'd maybe experienced at the club level you've been at so far?
I get, yeah, part of it was the standard actually was very high, especially in the conference that I played in. I find that the standard was high, and again, you have, I suppose it's the same in most leagues, that the women's leagues, you have your top 3-4 teams, and then obviously the bottom couple of teams. So the standard does, the standard can be high, and it can then be kind of quite low as well. But I think for any player looking to develop around that age, I think it's such a massive opportunity because you're getting to train full time.
Yeah. And from there, you kind of a short spell in Sweden, the kind of the middle of that, and then you had a spell in Iceland as well. What do you take from that American experience back into European football in, 2 different leagues?
Yeah, no, very different. I think one of the biggest things is from being away, that when you do then go to the different countries, you kind of know what to expect. Sweden was, again, I think the game there was even quicker. So I was only there roughly 5 weeks. So one of their teammates got injured, and just through a friend that I knew, they just needed a striker. So I thought, why not while I was at home during the college break, during summer. So I went there, and I enjoyed the experience, but it maybe wasn't one of my most enjoyable as a whole. It was kind of a different country. I think I missed home more during that period than I ever have. I think that was the most I've probably felt homesick. And even though it's actually not that far away, like I've been to America, which is a lot further, but I think it was just at that time, I don't know what it was, but yeah, the football inside was good, but the overall experience I didn't really get to enjoy. And then obviously I went back to America and then went to Iceland. I actually really enjoyed Iceland. Different culture again. The football the women's game over there is very highly recognised. A lot of you know, a lot of the Northern Irish girls have been across in Iceland. I think there's, you know, been 4 or 5 of us over the number of years that have went over to play, so we have that kind of connection as well. But yeah, I had a pretty successful season there. We won the league and got promoted to the top league, and I could have stayed, but I think once I had done it, I wanted then a new experience, and I wanted to kind of venture closer to home after Iceland. So I kind of went the furthest away I could to America, and then I kind of got closer to home each time. So and now I'm in Scotland, so it's good.
Yeah, and I know we spoke to Maddie Fulton as well, who signed the winter period as well, and she'd just been in Iceland and was at Keflavik, and she said that very technical, but you know, as a team like yours that got promoted, there was that kind of struggle to try and stay in that division because the top teams are so good, and then it's quite tough to stay in at the bottom.
Yeah, and that's the thing within the Pepsi League. I think she mentioned the top 2 teams, Valor and Breidablik. So then, you know, you have a massive gap to 3rd, 4th and 5th, and it's the same then in the league that I played in. I played with Throther, and they you know, were the top in that league, and there's maybe your top 3 teams, and then the same, you have then your middle place, and then obviously the standard drops again. But I think that's, as I mentioned before, that's in most leagues you find that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. So obviously the start of this season, Glasgow City came calling. How did that move come about?
So again, after I returned from Iceland, I wanted to move obviously closer to home, and I think the Scottish League was one that I was looking at. It was something that kind of caught my eye, and through my national team coach and Scott, you know, once I knew that they kind of were interested, it was just it was a no-brainer. It was, you know, I felt at that time I think it was the right fit for me, and you know, I'm delighted to be here.
Did you get any kind of thoughts or any conversations? I know I'm thinking Kerry Montgomery's played with City, Northern Ireland. Julian Nelson's a bit of a Glasgow City legend, played in the past. Did you maybe had a little word with one of them?
Yeah, I had, obviously with Julie being in the national team, so yeah, no, I had a few little chats with her about it, and you know, I think when she was here, she absolutely loved her time, and yeah, that helped as well. And then obviously I have a few other international teammates over here playing for the different clubs, so that kind of helped as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. It's going to be interesting because there has been a little clutch of Northern Irish players that came across to the league. You're going to be against them in the SLPL. Interesting times how, you know, a few have made the move to Scotland.
Yeah, no, it's good. Obviously, for our national team, again, that's what we want. We want to, you know, all the players play at the highest level, and it's great to see that. Obviously, as you said, a clutch of us have come over here to try and play. And yeah, it's going to be exciting playing against them. You know, it's going to be weird, but it's you know, it's fun, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. And how have you found, or how what do you make of Scott and particularly, you know, the experienced players that have won several titles, you know, in that squad, you know, the drive that's in that squad to keep on winning with the new challenges that are coming into the league?
Yeah, no, of course you can, you know, all the professionalism around training, and you know, Scott, he's very you know, passionate about what he does, and the girls are the same. You know, you can tell in trade we're all you know, they're all, I suppose, striving to want to do well again this year and be as successful this year as, you know, you were last year. But yeah, you know, there's a lot of top class players in the team, and the players you want to learn off. Yes, I know I'm 26, but I still have, you know, that room to grow as well, and you know, those high profile players. It's nice to kind of, I suppose, be in the same team as and learning off them.
Does it add a little bit, or, you know, there's something a little bit extra when you're wearing the badge that, you know, especially with the league changing and going to be even more competitive, like, you know, you're playing for a club solely focused on, you know, talking about the girls thing earlier, solely focused on the women's game, you know, it isn't a tag onto a men's club or anything like that?
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. And as I said earlier, you know, the clubs the club's vision and where they want to be and what they want to do. I obviously watched, the programme on BBC Alba, and it was, actually let me know more about the club than maybe what I didn't know. And it was very, very insightful and actually, I suppose, very motivating. And then at that point, it was obviously, I was like, I'm quite proud now to be at the club, after seeing all the steps that they've come through and the, the different struggles maybe that there's been. And yeah, like, again, that was just something that then I wanted to be a part of.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that does grab hold of your heart, however long you come to the club for. So one game so far, ages ago, and it's going to be effectively like a new season whenever it do get started. But before that, in this isolated little bubble, is going to be a Wolfsburg quarterfinal. You've came into a club to play Wolfsburg, which you're anticipating to play in March, but it's now going to be next month. One-off game, neutral venue. I guess that must appeal as well, signing for the club and, nail it harder or whatnot across the other side when we're playing against them.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, it's going to be something that's really, really exciting. Again, it's a quarter-final of the Champions League. I don't know how many players can say that they're a part of a club that's in the quarter-final of a Champions League, and obviously against Wolfsburg. You're challenging yourself against the best in the world, and I think it's something that you just have to work hard for and actually kind of just relish, just take it on and be quite, I suppose, the club's proud to be there and to be playing against those types of players. It's going to be challenging, but it's something that every player should look forward to.
I mean, it's going to be very challenging and whatnot, but a one-game match in a neutral venue, that pose, a slight bit of, optimism, because there was a lot of excitement when the draw was made, but like, oh my goodness, it's Wolfsburg. Probably a lot of fans are thinking, but now there's maybe that glimmer because it is this just a one-off game. Anything can happen in a one-off game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right. As you say, you can put, not that you would never not put your all into, a home and away leg in 2 games, but knowing that maybe you're only playing them once, that, as you say, anything can happen in a one-off game. And, the game starts off as a draw. So there has to be a winner at the end of it. But, it's within your reach during, a one-off game. I think it'd be a lot more difficult than, playing them obviously here in Scotland and maybe getting some kind of result, but then having to go to, play them again in Germany, and it'd be a whole different kind of game. So that one-off game, I think, probably personally might probably suit us. As you said, yeah, absolutely anything can happen. So it'll be exciting. And
in the kind of month or so ahead of that game, there's also not going to be likelihood any kind of other game before it. So we're a bit blind, which does have its issues in there. But is there a master plan that's already been talked about, or something you're expecting to work towards for that 4 or 5 weeks you've got now?
Yeah, so obviously we're just in training, and we're trying to I think build ourselves back in gradually. We didn't want to be full on throttle in there, especially not having done much for the last 15 weeks. Again, we've done it all ourselves, but within touching the ball, it's been a different story. Obviously with Wolfsburg, they've still been training and playing games, so they have that little step obviously on us, but Scott and the coaching staff, I'm sure, have a plan in place. But right now we're just working on our groups of 3 and hoping to go obviously contact next week, and we'll go from there.
And after that, as I say, we've got Watford League starting. There's going to be the next season's Champions League. Glasgow City are in that, so there's a lot of excitement there. A competitive League Two. What kind of goals have you got? For the coming months ahead, certainly, when we hopefully get some football beyond Wolfsburg. Yeah,
no, of course. Obviously, with the league starting, hopefully, we'll get more regular games, and I think I just want to be, obviously I've come over and I want to try and challenge to be within the team and in that starting 11 and getting a spot to be a regular in the team. That's I feel that I have I can bring a lot to the team as well. And yeah, I wanna be playing and just enjoy my football. Like any, I suppose, footballer would. Again, have the Champions League. I think the start of October. The qualifiers, obviously. So it's another 3 games that maybe we'll get in before the league starts. So, that's exciting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fun and fast kind of few months with loads of games. Fingers crossed anyway. Well, fingers crossed we see you plenty of times in that first few months. Hopefully speak to you and see you scoring goals and whatnot throughout the season.
That's it, hopefully, yeah. Thank you.